Welcome, scandal connoisseurs and pop culture fanatics, to a journey into the wild, untamed corners of fame, where the spotlight often serves as a magnifying glass for moments of pure, unadulterated chaos. We're embarking on a deep dive into something truly fascinating and, at times, incredibly unsettling: the 25 most absurd US celebrity meltdowns. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the pinnacle of global recognition, with millions of eyes fixed on your every move, your words amplified, and your life dissected. Now picture that immense pressure suddenly giving way, not in a quiet, private moment, but in a spectacularly public fashion, leaving a trail of bewildering headlines and bewildered fans. These aren't just minor slip-ups or fleeting bad moods. These are seismic events that shake the very foundations of what we perceive as normal, even for the rich and famous. From bizarre rants delivered to unsuspecting crowds to shocking public displays that defy all sense of decorum, these episodes strip away the curated perfection of celebrity, revealing the raw, often messy, human beings beneath. What drives a person who seemingly has it all to unravel so spectacularly in front of the entire world? Is it the relentless glare of the paparazzi, the crushing weight of expectation, or simply a deeply personal struggle spilling over into the public domain? We're not just chronicling these events, we're dissecting them, trying to understand the context that led to such explosive moments, the immediate and lasting consequences for the stars involved, and, let's be honest, the undeniable, if sometimes uncomfortable, entertainment value they offer us, the spectators. As we navigate through these unforgettable incidents, prepare to cringe, perhaps laugh, and certainly question everything you thought you knew about fame, sanity, and the delicate balance required to maintain both under the intense scrutiny of the public eye. Each story is a mosaic of human drama, psychological complexity, and the strange allure of watching icons momentarily lose their grip. So settle in, because this exploration promises to be as thought-provoking as it is profoundly entertaining, pushing the boundaries of what we define as a public spectacle and forcing us to reconsider the true cost of living life in the glaring, unforgiving spotlight. Our journey into the absurd begins with an incident so etched into the public consciousness it almost feels like a modern myth: Britney Spears' head shaving in 2007. This act transcended a simple haircut. It was a raw, visceral declaration, a public unraveling that captivated and horrified the world. Imagine the scene: a star who had been America's sweetheart since her teenage years, the epitome of pop perfection and carefully curated image, suddenly, defiantly, takes a pair of clippers to her own head. The image of those shorn locks falling to the floor sent shockwaves, not just through the entertainment industry, but through every household with a television or internet connection. The media frenzy that erupted was unprecedented, even for a celebrity of her stature. Paparazzi, already a constant presence in her life, intensified their pursuit to a frightening degree. Every move was documented, every expression analyzed, every whisper amplified. The sight of her, head newly shorn, defiantly facing down a horde of flashing cameras, became the defining image of the incident. It wasn't just about the act itself, but the chaotic, almost predatory environment surrounding it. This was the ultimate invasion of privacy, where personal anguish became public spectacle. Following the head shaving, her brief stop at a tattoo parlor, defiantly adding new ink to her body, further underscored a narrative of a young woman desperately trying to reclaim agency in a world that seemed to be suffocating her. The public's reaction was a mix of shock, judgment, and a strange, morbid fascination. Some saw it as a cry for help, others as a sign of irreversible decline. What no one could deny was its profound symbolic weight. This wasn't just a moment of personal crisis. It became a chilling symbol of the intense scrutiny and loss of privacy that celebrities, particularly young women, face. It highlighted the impossible pressure to maintain a perfect facade while living under a microscope, The head shaving incident, far from being just a bizarre anecdote, marked a pivotal point in Britney Spears' life. It was a catalyst that led directly to her highly controversial conservatorship, an arrangement that would strip her of control over her personal and financial life for many years. It transformed her public narrative from pop princess to a figure of both pity and endless tabloid fodder, setting a somber yet utterly fascinating tone for understanding the often devastating consequences of living a life in the fishbowl of fame. This one moment, seemingly small in its physical act, reverberated globally and reshaped her destiny, demonstrating how one public act, born of desperation, can trigger a cascade of events with far-reaching implications. From the intense personal struggles of a pop princess, we shift our gaze to the flamboyant, often unpredictable world of fashion, specifically to one of modern music's most polarizing figures, Kanye West. While West has accumulated his share of headline-grabbing moments, the Yeezy Season 4 fashion show in 2016 wasn't just a misstep. It was a spectacular, almost theatrical, collapse that etched itself into the annals of celebrity meltdowns. Picture this: Roosevelt Island, a sweltering New York City September day, with temperatures soaring. Attendees, many of whom were fashion industry elites and celebrities, were shuttled to this remote location, only to be left waiting, some for hours, under the scorching sun. The event was promised to be a grand spectacle, a fusion of fashion and performance art, but what unfolded was pure, unadulterated chaos, less a fashion show and more an endurance test. The logistical nightmares began long before the first models stepped onto the makeshift runway. Buses meant to transport guests were delayed, creating significant frustration among an already impatient crowd. Once finally at the venue, the scene was set against a desolate, industrial backdrop, with models arranged in static formations, some standing for what felt like an eternity, clad in thick, layered clothing utterly unsuitable for the extreme heat. The consequences were immediate and alarming. Models, many of whom were young and inexperienced, began to faint from heat exhaustion and dehydration, collapsing dramatically onto the ground. This wasn't a planned artistic statement, it was a genuine health crisis unfolding live. Adding to the disarray, the footwear, a signature component of West's Yeezy brand, proved to be fundamentally flawed. Boots designed for the show broke mid-walk, their heels snapping off as models navigated the gravelly path. This not only created awkward, stumbling moments, but also highlighted a glaring lack of practical design and quality control. The entire presentation was painfully slow, with the first models not even appearing on the main runway until well over an hour after the planned start time. Critics and attendees alike voiced their outrage, not just at the delays and the models' suffering, but at the sheer amateurishness of an event fronted by one of the world's biggest stars. Fashion luminaries, who typically attend with an air of detached judgment, openly expressed their dismay, criticizing the lack of professionalism and the blatant disregard for basic human comfort. This incident encapsulated so much of Kanye West's public persona: his immense, sometimes blinding, ambition, his unwavering belief in his own vision, and his often rebellious defiance of established industry norms. He had sought to disrupt the traditional fashion show format, to create something truly avant-garde, but in doing so, he overlooked critical details that led to a PR disaster and a logistical nightmare. The Yeezy Season 4 show laid bare the thin line between artistic genius and hubris, illustrating how an unfiltered, sometimes self-destructive drive can alienate even the most ardent fans and critics. For West, it was a moment that redefined his relationship with public perception, proving that even a celebrity of his stature is not immune to the harsh realities of a poorly executed vision. From the visual spectacle of a fashion show gone awry, we delve into the often hidden world behind the camera, specifically to the intense pressure cooker environment of a Hollywood film set, where emotions can run as high as the budgets. In 2009, the public was given an unprecedented, albeit shocking, peek into this world when an audio recording was leaked, capturing actor Christian Bale in a profanity-laced tirade on the set of the science fiction epic Terminator Salvation. This wasn't merely a moment of frustration, it was a volcanic eruption of anger directed at the film's director of photography, Shane Hurlbut, that quickly became a global sensation. The sheer audacity of the outburst, its raw intensity, and the immediate viral spread of the audio file made it an instant classic in the pantheon of celebrity meltdowns. The context of the rant is crucial to understanding its explosive nature. Bale, known for his method acting and intense immersion in roles, was filming a particularly pivotal scene in what was meant to be a gritty, post-apocalyptic blockbuster. In the actor's perception, Hurlbut had broken a cardinal rule of filmmaking, walking into Bale's eyeline during a take, distracting him and, in Bale's mind, ruining the performance. The audio reveals Bale's voice escalating from a tense whisper to a full-blown scream, excoriating Hurlbut with a torrent of expletives and threats. He accused the cinematographer of unprofessionalism, of undermining his performance, and questioned his very right to be on set. The verbal assault was relentless, lasting for several minutes, punctuated by Bale demanding Hurlbut be fired. It painted a vivid, unsettling picture of the extreme demands and fragile egos that can coexist on a major film production, where every second costs thousands of dollars and every performance is under microscopic scrutiny. The public reaction to the leaked audio was swift and multifaceted. Initially, there was widespread shock and condemnation. Many viewed Bale's behavior as utterly unwarranted and an abuse of power, especially given the hierarchical nature of a film set. The incident briefly overshadowed the film itself, becoming the primary topic of discussion surrounding Terminator Salvation. Late-night hosts lampooned it, and the audio was remixed into countless viral videos, turning a moment of extreme anger into a strange form of pop culture entertainment. However, as the initial furor subsided, a more nuanced conversation began to emerge. Some defended Bale, arguing that the pressures of a film set, especially one as large and demanding as Terminator Salvation, could push anyone to their breaking point. They highlighted the legendary intensity of his acting style, suggesting that his outburst was a symptom of his deep commitment to the craft, albeit an extreme one. Bale himself issued a public apology, expressing deep regret for his actions and acknowledging the unprofessionalism of his outburst. He described the incident as a momentary lapse of judgment stemming from his intense focus on his character and the scene. Shane Hurlbut also spoke out, downplaying the incident and expressing his respect for Bale's passion, effectively diffusing some of the tension. This apology tour, while necessary, further highlighted the incident's impact. It offered a rare glimpse into the high-stakes, pressure cooker environment of Hollywood production, where tight deadlines, massive expectations, and artistic ambition can collide with individual personalities, sometimes with spectacular and regrettable results. The Terminator Salvation rant served as a stark reminder that even the most accomplished actors are human, susceptible to the immense psychological and emotional toll that can come with living and working under the relentless glare of the entertainment industry. From the fiery set of a Hollywood blockbuster, we now turn our attention to the vibrant, often chaotic world of live television, specifically to an incident that left audiences scratching their heads and confirmed that sometimes reality truly is stranger than fiction. In 2001, the music world watched in disbelief as pop diva Mariah Carey made an appearance on MTV's popular show, Total Request Live, or TRL, that was unlike anything seen before or since. This wasn't a carefully choreographed promotional stunt. It was a bizarre, unscripted spectacle that unfolded live, catching host Carson Daly and millions of viewers completely off guard. Imagine the scene, a typical afternoon broadcast, and suddenly, the iconic Mariah Carey rolls onto the set, not through the stage door like a normal guest, but pushing a brightly colored ice cream cart. She was dressed in an oversized, faded t-shirt that looked more like sleepwear than pop star attire, paired with equally ill-fitting shorts. It was an immediate visual cue that something was profoundly off-kilter. As if her unconventional entrance and attire weren't startling enough, what followed was an utterly bewildering sequence of events. Instead of sitting down for a scheduled interview, Carrie began to push the ice cream cart around the stage, offering popsicles to a visibly uncomfortable Dolly and the studio audience. Then, mid-segment, she began to perform a spontaneous and baffling striptease, shedding her oversized t-shirt to reveal a tiny, glittering tank top and a pair of very short shorts beneath. The move was less seductive and more disoriented, leaving everyone perplexed. Her monologue was even more disjointed than her actions. She rambled incoherently about needing therapy, about releasing pent-up emotions, and about the pressures of her career. Her words were a jumbled stream of consciousness, touching on personal struggles, professional frustrations, and a general sense of being overwhelmed. Dolly, caught in an impossible situation, attempted to maintain composure and gently guide her back to some semblance of normalcy, but it was clear he was as bewildered as the audience. The Tyrell appearance was a public unraveling, a clear and undeniable signal that the usually polished and controlled global superstar was in deep distress. It wasn't just a quirky moment, it was a raw, unfiltered cry for help disguised as an impromptu performance. For her fans, it was heartbreaking to witness. For the media, it was absolute tabloid gold, fueling speculation about her mental state. The segment ended abruptly, leaving a lingering sense of unease. What many people didn't realize at the time was that this bizarre public display was not an isolated incident, but a prelude to a much more serious crisis. Just days after her Tyrell appearance, Mariah Carey was hospitalized for what was described as an emotional and physical breakdown. The intense pressures of her career, coupled with reported exhaustion from overwork and personal struggles, had finally taken their toll. This televised meltdown became a sobering lesson in the vulnerabilities even global superstars face. It stripped away the illusion of invincibility that fame often projects, revealing the human cost of living under constant scrutiny and immense expectation. The incident brought into sharp focus the often neglected conversation around mental health within the entertainment industry, especially for figures who are expected to embody perfection at all times. For Mariah Carey, this period marked a significant turning point. It forced her to step away from the public eye for a time to prioritize her well-being and begin a journey of recovery. Her Tyrell appearance remains a stark reminder that even amidst the glitz and glamour, celebrities are not immune to profound personal battles, and sometimes those battles spill into the glaring spotlight in the most unexpected and unforgettable ways. From the deeply personal struggles of Mariah Carey, we pivot now to a different kind of public unraveling, one characterized by a potent mix of defiance, charisma, and undeniable chaos: Charlie Sheen's infamous winning tour in 2011. This period followed his dramatic firing from the highly successful television show, 2.5 Men, a decision that stripped him of a massive paycheck and seemingly any remaining inhibitions. What ensued wasn't a quiet retreat from the spotlight, but an aggressive, almost evangelical embrace of it, transforming his personal crisis into a bizarre, traveling spectacle. Sheen, already known for his hedonistic lifestyle, leaned into his newfound notoriety, effectively turning his public meltdown into a performance art piece he dubbed the Torpedo of Truth Tour. This self-appointed tour was less about truth and more about a whirlwind of incoherent pronouncements and nonsensical rants that captivated and confused the world. Sheen, with a gleam in his eye and a manic energy, declared himself to be in a state of perpetual winning, a catchphrase that became synonymous with his erratic behavior. He famously claimed to possess tiger blood and adenosine, fantastical biological attributes he asserted were the source of his supposed invincibility and superior intellect. These soundbites, delivered with unshakable conviction, became instant memes, repeated endlessly on news cycles and late-night television. Interviews during this time were not conversations but monologues, ranging from aggressive declarations of his genius to rambling assessments of his former colleagues, all delivered with an unsettling blend of confidence and delusion. He would frequently appear agitated, his eyes wide, gesturing wildly as he spun out increasingly bizarre theories about his life and his critics. The chaotic nature of his live shows only amplified the spectacle. What began as an attempt to connect with fans devolved into unpredictable, often uncomfortable performances. Audiences, drawn by morbid curiosity, witnessed Sheen delivering rambling speeches, often deviating wildly from any discernible script, interspersed with self-aggrandizing claims and bizarre non-sequiturs. He would sometimes pull out a machete on stage, emphasizing his warrior persona, or engage in call and response with the crowd that felt more like a cult gathering than a comedy show. These events solidified his image as an unpredictable and often unhinged public figure, a far cry from the charming, roguish character he had played on screen for years. The traditional line between the character and the actor blurred entirely, leaving many to wonder if they were witnessing a calculated performance or a genuine descent into instability. The media circus that followed Sheen during this period was unprecedented. Every word, every gesture, every public appearance was dissected, analyzed, and amplified across all platforms. News channels ran 24-hour coverage of his latest bizarre statement. Tabloids splashed his image across their front pages daily, and social media exploded with reactions, memes, and commentary. While this media frenzy brought immense public attention, it also highlighted a troubling ethical dilemma. Was the media simply reporting on a celebrity's public actions, or were they actively contributing to and profiting from a man's very public breakdown? Concern from family and friends was palpable, many issuing public statements of worry and attempting to intervene, only to be met with Sheen's defiant rhetoric. This period solidified his image as a cautionary tale of the perilous tightrope walk between entertainment and genuine concern for a star's well-being. Charlie Sheen's winning tour wasn't just a media event, it was a deeply unsettling examination of fame, perceived madness, and the public's insatiable appetite for witnessing a star's self-destruction in real time. From the self-proclaimed winning of Charlie Sheen, we transition to a more poignant, perhaps even tragic, public unraveling, that of child star Amanda Bynes. Her journey from beloved Nickelodeon and teen movie icon to an erratic, often disturbing online presence marked a slow burn descent into chaos that began around 2012. Unlike the explosive, singular incidents of some of our previous examples, Bynes' meltdown was a prolonged public spectacle, played out largely on the stage of social media, offering a raw and unfiltered look at a young woman struggling under immense pressure and rapidly declining mental health. For years, Bynes had been a fixture in American households, first charming audiences with her comedic timing on All That and The Amanda Show, then transitioning seamlessly into a successful career in popular teen films. She embodied the cheerful, approachable girl next door archetype, making her seemingly abrupt shift into bizarre public behavior all the more shocking to her fans. The initial signs of trouble manifested not on a film set or a red carpet, but often behind the wheel of a car. Her 2012 arrest for a driving under the influence charge was one of the first major red flags, quickly followed by a string of hit-and-run allegations and driving offenses that painted a picture of someone dangerously out of control. These incidents escalated, culminating in a highly publicized alleged home invasion in 2013, where she was accused of starting a small fire in a stranger's driveway. Each new legal skirmish added another layer to the growing public perception of a star in crisis. However, it was Bynes' use of Twitter that truly amplified her unraveling into a daily, public drama. Her feed, once a typical celebrity platform, transformed into a continuous stream of increasingly disturbing, incoherent, and often aggressive messages. She would post selfies with altered appearances, often involving peculiar wigs and heavy makeup, juxtaposed with outlandish claims about herself and others. She declared herself to be microchipped, accused her father of abuse, and most famously articulated her desire for Drake to murder her vagina. The sheer audacity and vulgarity of these tweets, coming from someone who had always maintained a wholesome image, were jarring. She frequently directed bizarre, unprovoked insults at other celebrities, including Rihanna, Miley Cyrus, and Zac Efron, often criticizing their looks or talent in deeply personal and offensive ways. These public attacks, sometimes followed by rapid retractions or further bizarre explanations, were a clear sign of deep psychological distress, baffling and alarming both her followers and the wider public. The public's fascination with Bynes' Twitter feed was immense, a mixture of concern, morbid curiosity, and unfortunately harsh judgment. Each new tweet would instantly become a topic of discussion, fueling speculation about her mental state. While many expressed genuine worry, a significant portion of the online discourse veered into mockery, further intensifying the pressure on a young woman who was clearly in distress. Her family, who had largely remained private, began to voice their deep concern publicly, culminating in their highly publicized efforts to establish a conservatorship over her. This legal arrangement, similar to that which Britney Spears would later challenge, was a desperate measure to gain control over Bynes' life and finances, aiming to provide her with the mental health treatment she so clearly needed but seemed unwilling or unable to pursue on her own. Amanda Bynes' very public struggle provided a stark, painful illustration of the perils faced by child stars transitioning into adulthood, especially under the unyielding glare of media scrutiny. She was a product of a system that often idealizes and exploits young talent, leaving them ill-equipped to handle the immense pressures of fame, personal autonomy, and mental health challenges without a robust support system. Her story became a critical case study in the devastating intersection of celebrity, mental illness, and the complex ethical dilemma surrounding public intervention versus individual freedom. The eventual conservatorship, while controversial, underscored the desperation of her situation, highlighting the profound difficulties of managing severe mental health issues in a person accustomed to complete independence and relentless public attention. Bynes' slow burn meltdown was a powerful, enduring reminder of the fragility of even the most celebrated lives when faced with battles unseen and unheard by the waiting eyes of the world. From the very real and painful struggles of Amanda Bynes, we now delve into a truly unique chapter in the annals of celebrity meltdowns, one that purposely blurred the lines between reality and an elaborate performance, Joaquin Phoenix's "I'm Still Here" hoax, a period that spans from late 2008 through early 2010. This wasn't a sudden outburst of anger or a public unraveling due to personal distress. Instead, it was a meticulously orchestrated, months-long piece of performance art designed to fool the public, the media, and even many close to Phoenix, all for a mockumentary film. The centerpiece of this grand deception, and arguably its most iconic moment, came during his notoriously awkward and often unsettling appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman in February 2009. Imagine the scene. Letterman, a veteran interviewer known for his sharp wit and ability to cut through celebrity facade, is faced with a guest who seems to be an entirely different person from the acclaimed actor he once knew. Phoenix, who had just announced his retirement from acting to pursue a career as a hip-hop artist, walked onto the stage looking disheveled, sporting a thick, unkempt beard, oversized sunglasses, and speaking in a slow, slurred, almost incoherent manner. His responses to Letterman's questions were either monosyllabic grunts, rambling non sequiturs, or outright evasions. He chewed gum throughout the interview, seemingly detached and utterly uninterested in engaging with his host or the audience. Letterman, clearly perplexed and a little annoyed, tried to make sense of the situation, peppering Phoenix with increasingly pointed questions about his new career path and his bizarre demeanor. But Phoenix remained stubbornly in character, offering only vague, spacey answers that hinted at a deep psychological break. The tension in the room was palpable, a mix of awkward laughter and genuine concern from the audience. Letterman himself, visibly frustrated, famously quipped at one point, "Joaquin, I'm sorry you couldn't be here tonight." The public's reaction to this appearance, and indeed to Phoenix's entire transformation, was a potent cocktail of confusion, concern, and rampant speculation. Was he genuinely having a breakdown? Had the pressures of Hollywood finally pushed him over the edge? Media outlets debated his mental state, tabloids ran sensational headlines, and fans expressed sadness and worry for an actor they admired. The video clips of his Letterman interview went viral, instantly becoming a cultural phenomenon. Everyone had an opinion, and the prevailing consensus was that Joaquin Phoenix had truly lost his mind. This period was marked by other public displays of his supposed rap career, including chaotic live performances where he would stumble, forget lyrics, or even fall off the stage, all contributing to the growing narrative of a talented individual spiraling out of control. The ultimate reveal came in 2010, when it was announced that Phoenix's erratic behavior and foray into hip-hop were all part of an elaborate performance for a mockumentary titled "I'm Still Here," directed by his brother-in-law, Casey Affleck. The film chronicled Phoenix's supposed career transition, offering a behind-the-scenes look at his bizarre public persona. The revelation was met with a mix of awe, anger, and a sense of being completely duped. While some lauded the project as a groundbreaking piece of performance art that brilliantly critiqued celebrity culture and the media's insatiable appetite for spectacle, others felt betrayed and manipulated. Ethically, the hoax raised significant questions about media manipulation, journalistic integrity, and the responsibility of public figures. Was it fair to intentionally mislead the public, especially by feigning a mental health crisis? What did it say about a culture that was so quick to believe the worst about a celebrity? Despite the controversy, the "I'm Still Here" hoax undeniably blurred the lines between reality and performance in a way few public spectacles had before. It forced viewers to question everything they saw in the media, highlighting how easily public perception can be shaped and controlled. It was an audacious experiment that proved the power of narrative, even a fabricated one, to captivate and confuse. For Joaquin Phoenix, it cemented his reputation as an artist willing to take extreme risks, even at the cost of public scrutiny and temporary damage to his image. This elaborate charade was a masterful, if manipulative, commentary on the nature of fame, authenticity, and the very real consequences of believing everything you see in the glaring spotlight. From the deliberately confusing performance art of Joaquin Phoenix, we navigate to another artist who masterfully, or perhaps maddeningly, blurred the lines between genuine distress and calculated provocation, Shia LaBeouf. His public trajectory around 2013 and 2014 spiraled into a series of events that left the world questioning not just his sanity, but the very definition of celebrity, art, and apology. LaBeouf, once known as a Disney child star who successfully transitioned into respected acting roles in blockbusters, suddenly pivoted into a realm of performance art that many interpreted as a full-blown public meltdown. The catalyst for this tumultuous period was a significant plagiarism scandal in 2013. LaBeouf released a short film titled Howard Cantor, Com, which was quickly exposed as having been almost entirely plagiarized from a graphic novel called Justin M. Damiano by Daniel Clowes. The similarities were undeniable, extending beyond thematic inspiration to direct copying of dialogue and visual compositions. What followed was not a straightforward apology. Instead, LaBeouf embarked on a series of increasingly bizarre, meta-level apologies, many of which themselves were plagiarized. He tweeted snippets of apologies from various sources, including a statement from Lena Dunham, and even commissioned a skywriting apology that read, "I am sorry, Daniel Clowes." This performative rather than genuine act of contrition only deepened the public's confusion and frustration, raising questions about his sincerity and his understanding of the gravity of intellectual property theft. Was this a genuine attempt at apology, or was he continuing the provocation, making the act of apologizing itself a form of art? The situation escalated dramatically at the 2014 Berlin International Film Festival, where LaBeouf was promoting Lars von Trier's film, Nymphomaniac. During a press conference, he arrived with a paper bag over his head, an immediate visual declaration of his detachment and defiance. Written on the bag in bold, black letters were the words, "I am not famous anymore." This became an iconic, unsettling image, encapsulating a celebrity seemingly rejecting the very fame that defined him. His appearance at the press conference itself was equally bizarre. When asked a question about the film's explicit sexual content, he quoted Eric Cantona's famous "When the Seagulls Follow the Trawler" line, an enigmatic non sequitur that further baffled journalists and reinforced the impression that he was operating on an entirely different plane of reality. He then abruptly walked out of the press conference, leaving his bewildered co-stars and director to field questions about his behavior. Later, on the red carpet, he reappeared with the paper bag still firmly over his head. This red carpet protest was not an isolated incident, but a springboard into a series of self-proclaimed performance art pieces that continued to challenge traditional celebrity norms. Following the Berlin incident, LaBeouf launched an art exhibition titled "I Am Sorry" in Los Angeles. During this exhibition, attendees were invited to sit across a table from him, where he silently wore the "I am not famous anymore" paper bag. The experience was designed to be unsettling and confrontational, with visitors recounting various interactions, some genuine, some manufactured. This project, along with other ventures such as his meditation marathon, where he live-streamed himself silently meditating, and his later anti-bullying project, where he allowed people to call him and leave voicemails, solidified his new persona as a performance artist. The public's reaction was deeply divided. Many found his actions to be genuinely disturbing, viewing them as clear signs of a young man experiencing a public breakdown, indicative of severe mental health struggles. Others, particularly within the art world, lauded his boundary-pushing provocations, seeing them as a critique of celebrity culture, the public's consumption of fame, and the very nature of art itself. LaBeouf's peculiar trajectory challenged audiences to distinguish between art and reality, between genuine psychological distress and calculated conceptual performance. Was he method acting his way through a crisis, or was the crisis itself the performance? His actions forced a conversation about the responsibilities of a famous individual, the ethics of media sensationalism, and the public's role in consuming celebrity narratives. It raised a profound question: when does an artist's personal struggle become a public spectacle, and when does a public spectacle become art? Shia LaBeouf's journey through this period was a masterclass in ambiguity, leaving a lasting impression on how we perceive the intersection of fame, mental well-being, and artistic expression, remaining one of the most perplexing and thought-provoking celebrity meltdowns in recent memory. From the calculated oddities of Shia LaBeouf, we now leap into a moment that redefined public displays of affection and sparked a global conversation about the fine line between passion and peculiarity: Tom Cruise's infamous couch jump on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2005. This wasn't merely a verbal declaration of love. It was a full-bodied, high-energy spectacle that cemented itself into pop culture lore, instantly becoming a symbol of celebrity exuberance taken to an almost bewildering extreme. Imagine this: the usually composed and highly controlled Tom Cruise, one of Hollywood's most bankable and recognizable stars, sitting across from the queen of daytime television, Oprah Winfrey. The topic was his new relationship with actress Katie Holmes, a romance that had already been generating considerable media buzz. Then, seemingly overcome with joy and an uncontainable burst of emotion, Cruise didn't just express his feelings. He sprang onto Oprah's pristine studio couch, literally bouncing on the cushions while pumping his fists in the air, shouting about being in love. The scene was less a heartfelt confession and more a spontaneous, almost childlike explosion of unbridled giddiness. He then knelt, grasping Oprah's hands, gazing into her eyes with an intensity that was both captivating and, for many, deeply unsettling. His repeated, emphatic pronouncements of I'm in love, punctuated the chaotic, yet undeniably memorable, display. The moment lasted only a few seconds, but its impact reverberated for years, etching itself permanently into the collective consciousness. The public reaction to the couch jump was immediate and overwhelmingly one of shock, confusion, and widespread mockery. The clip went viral before viral was even a common term, endlessly replayed, parodied on late-night television, and dissected across news channels and internet forums. For many, it was the first time they had seen Tom Cruise seemingly lose control of his carefully curated, almost robotic public persona. His actions were deemed erratic, bizarre, and out of character for a leading man typically known for his stoic demeanor and polished professionalism. The media, ever hungry for sensationalism, amplified the spectacle, transforming a personal expression of joy into a bizarre public meltdown. News outlets questioned his sanity, psychologists weighed in on his emotional state, and commentators debated whether this was a genuine outpouring of emotion or a calculated, if poorly executed, PR stunt. Hashtags, though not yet ubiquitous, formed organically around the incident as people collectively tried to process what they had just witnessed. It sparked countless memes and jokes, turning Cruise into a caricature of himself, someone who had seemingly lost touch with reality, demonstrating how quickly a single, unconventional act can redefine a public figure. Beyond the immediate spectacle, the couch jump ignited broader discussions that profoundly impacted Tom Cruise's public image and, crucially, brought his relationship with Scientology into the mainstream conversation in an unprecedented way. Prior to this, while Cruise's connection to Scientology was known, it hadn't permeated general public discourse with such intensity. However, as people grappled with his erratic behavior, many began to link his actions to his religious beliefs. Critics and former Scientologists seized the opportunity to highlight the perceived oddities of the church's practices, suggesting that Cruise's behavior was a manifestation of his deep immersion in Scientology. This connection, whether fair or not, became indelibly etched onto his public image. For years following the incident, nearly every article written about Cruise, every interview he gave, every film he promoted, was accompanied by references to the couch jump and his Scientology affiliation. It became a lens through which all his subsequent actions were viewed, casting a shadow of eccentricity over his otherwise stellar acting career. This single, seemingly innocent act of joy, meant to convey boundless love and excitement, was inadvertently amplified by the media into a peculiar, almost alien, spectacle that fundamentally altered public perception of one of Hollywood's biggest, most beloved stars. It highlighted the incredibly fine line between open passion and perceived peculiarity in the unforgiving glare of the public eye. For a celebrity, every gesture is scrutinized, every word weighed, and an act that might be considered endearing or charming in a private setting can become a source of ridicule and concern when broadcast to millions. The couch jump served as a potent illustration of how easily a public figure can lose control of their narrative, how an unscripted moment can spiral into a career-defining controversy, and how, once introduced, a perceived strangeness can become impossible to shake. Tom Cruise, once an almost universally adored action hero, found his carefully constructed image irrevocably changed, demonstrating the immense power of a single televised moment to redefine an entire career and shape public opinion for years to come. From the public joy of Tom Cruise's couch jump, we pivot to a far more uncomfortable and damaging private moment thrust violently into the public eye. Alec Baldwin's infamous voicemail rant to his then 11-year-old daughter, Ireland. In 2007, a deeply personal and shockingly venomous message, left on Ireland's phone by her father, was leaked to the media. The content of that voicemail was stark, raw, and utterly devastating. Baldwin, in a fit of rage, called his young daughter a rude, thoughtless little pig. This wasn't a calculated outburst on a talk show or an artistic statement. It was an unfiltered, private explosion of anger, suddenly exposed to a global audience, instantly shattering the carefully constructed image of a sophisticated, articulate actor. The sheer cruelty of the words, directed at a child by her own father, sent shockwaves through the public, transforming what should have been a family matter into a relentless, inescapable media firestorm. The context surrounding the call made the leak even more potent. At the time, Baldwin was embroiled in a notoriously bitter and protracted custody battle with his ex-wife, Kim Basinger, over their daughter, Ireland. This ongoing legal and personal strife had already been a subject of tabloid fodder, but the voicemail provided a chilling, unvarnished glimpse into the depths of the animosity. Baldwin himself later explained that the call was made out of frustration and anger because Ireland had missed a scheduled phone call from him, and he believed Basinger was intentionally alienating their daughter from him. While the pressures of a high-conflict custody dispute are immense, the language used in the voicemail, the visceral, demeaning insults transcended mere frustration. It painted a picture of a man pushed to his absolute limit, lashing out in a way that was deeply hurtful and psychologically damaging. The public, hearing those words, reacted with a mixture of disgust, pity for the young Ireland, and condemnation for Baldwin. This was no longer just about two celebrities battling in court. It was about a father's disturbing behavior towards his child. The public backlash was immediate and severe, delivering a significant blow to Baldwin's reputation. Known for his charismatic roles and often sharp, witty public persona, the voicemail exposed a darker, volatile side that many found deeply unsettling. He was lambasted across news channels, late-night shows, and in the burgeoning world of online commentary. The image of him as a loving, protective father was instantly obliterated, replaced by the perception of an abusive, out-of-control parent. For a celebrity whose public image is meticulously crafted and vital to their career, this was an almost irreparable wound. It led to intense scrutiny of his parenting style, his temper, and his personal life in general. Every subsequent action or statement he made was viewed through the lens of that leaked voicemail, demonstrating how a single, raw moment can forever redefine how the public perceives an individual, especially when it involves the perceived mistreatment of a child. Beyond the immediate damage to Baldwin's reputation, the leak served as a chilling reminder of the extreme vulnerability of celebrities to their private moments becoming public fodder. In an increasingly digital age, where personal communications can be easily recorded and disseminated, the incident highlighted how even the most intimate conversations can be weaponized and exposed. For Baldwin, it meant a very real and uncomfortable confrontation with his own behavior, not just in the privacy of his family, but under the unforgiving glare of global judgment. He was forced to publicly acknowledge, explain, and apologize for words that were never meant for public consumption. This episode underscored the intense scrutiny celebrities face when their personal lives diverge drastically from their public personas, creating a profound and often painful disconnect. It forced a raw, unfiltered look at the cost of fame, where the walls between public and private life crumble, leaving little room for error or raw human emotion without severe public consequence. The Alec Baldwin voicemail remains a stark cautionary tale, showcasing the devastating power of a private rant exposed, and the enduring difficulty for a public figure to ever truly escape the shadow of such a profound and painful moment. From the raw, unedited rage of Alec Baldwin, we transition to a different, perhaps more perplexing kind of celebrity oddity, the enigmatic, often bewildering behavior of Bill Murray. While perhaps not a full meltdown in the explosive sense of some of our other examples, Murray's notoriously elusive and unpredictable conduct, sometimes veering into genuinely bizarre and even rude encounters with the public and his co-stars, reached a particular peak during the filming of the critically acclaimed 2003 film, Lost in Translation, and in subsequent events. He's a beloved figure, an icon of comedy and understated cool, yet his eccentricities often blur the line between endearing quirkiness and outright oddity, leaving those around him and us constantly guessing. Murray's unique approach to professional and personal life is legendary throughout Hollywood. He famously has no agent or manager, opting instead for an old-school approach where he can only be reached through a 1-800 number, which he rarely checks. Directors and producers desperate to work with him recount stories of sending scripts to this mysterious number, hoping for a callback that might never come. He's known for ghosting even the most prominent filmmakers, disappearing for months, only to resurface when the mood strikes him. This unconventional communication method, while adding to his mystique, can also create immense logistical headaches and frustration for anyone trying to pin him down for a project. It's part of the Bill Murray legend, but it also reflects a temperament that prioritizes his own whims over industry norms, sometimes to the detriment of those around him. This behavior isn't just about making himself hard to reach. It's about maintaining a profound, almost defiant sense of personal autonomy in an industry that constantly demands conformity. On the set of Lost in Translation, a film that perfectly captured his melancholic charm, reports surfaced that his eccentricities were often on full display. During filming in Tokyo, there were anecdotes of him disappearing for hours, only to be found singing karaoke with locals in a dive bar or engaging in spontaneous, unscripted adventures. While these moments often lent an authentic unpredictability to his performance, they also contributed to a chaotic atmosphere that could be challenging for the production team. Director Sofia Coppola, who specifically wrote the role for Murray, had to contend with his elusive nature firsthand, often relying on serendipity and his spontaneous impulses to capture the magic on screen. It was a testament to her vision and his talent that the film was acclaimed despite, or perhaps because of, his unpredictable methods. This film really solidified his public image as an unpredictable, off-kilter genius, a man who lives by his own rules, often to the delight of his fans, but occasionally to the bewilderment of his colleagues. Beyond film sets, Murray's interactions with fans have become the stuff of legend, often veering into the realm of performance art. There are countless documented instances of him spontaneously appearing at house parties, crashing kickball games in public parks, serving drinks behind random bars, or even doing dishes at strangers' homes. These are often delightful, fleeting encounters that create instant, unforgettable viral moments for those lucky enough to experience them. Yet, there are also reports of his humor crossing into territory that some find uncomfortable or even rude. He might snatch a French fry from a stranger's plate and walk off without a word, or engage in deadpan, unsettling stares. These moments, while often intended as playful subversions of social norms, can sometimes leave people feeling bewildered, offended, or unsure how to react. It's a fine line between playful disruption and genuine awkwardness, and Murray seems to delight in dancing right on that edge. His consistent elusiveness and his unconventional way of moving through the world make him a figure that is hard to categorize. For every charming story of him photobombing a wedding, there's another about him being difficult to work with, or engaging in a bizarre, almost unsettling interaction. How much of this is a carefully cultivated persona, and how much is just Bill being Bill, is a question that remains unanswered, contributing to his enduring mystique. His eccentricities, while often charming and the source of his unique brand of celebrity, sometimes cross into unsettling territory, illustrating the fine line between endearing quirkiness and outright oddity for a beloved Hollywood figure like him. This blend of genius and unpredictable behavior means that with Bill Murray, you never quite know what you're going to get, and that, perhaps, is precisely what makes him so endlessly fascinating. From the peculiar antics of Bill Murray, we now shine a spotlight on a figure whose public unraveling was a far more tragic and prolonged affair, playing out in a relentless cycle of arrests, court appearances, and rehab stints: Lindsay Lohan. Her journey from the vibrant, charismatic teen queen of films like Mean Girls and The Parent Trap to a constant tabloid fixture, synonymous with public meltdowns, serves as a poignant, often heartbreaking, cautionary tale about the perils of early fame, the insidious grip of addiction, and the seemingly endless cycle of celebrity self-destruction. Unlike the singular, explosive incidents we've discussed, Lohan's descent was a slow-motion car crash, unfolding over more than a decade, each new legal woe acting as another grim milestone in her very public struggle. Her troubles truly began to escalate in 2007, marking a pivotal year that initiated a pattern she would struggle to break for years to come. That year alone, she was arrested twice for driving under the influence, facing charges that included possession of cocaine. These incidents were not isolated. They were quickly followed by a string of probation violations that became a recurring theme in her life. Each violation led to renewed court appearances, further drug tests, and increasingly stringent legal requirements, often resulting in short jail sentences or forced stints in rehabilitation facilities. The public was treated to a constant stream of images: Lohan entering courthouses, her face etched with exhaustion, or being photographed leaving rehab facilities, only for the cycle to seemingly begin anew. This period also saw her struggle with shoplifting accusations, with a notable incident in 2011 where she was charged with felony grand theft for allegedly stealing a necklace from a Venice, California boutique. Each new legal entanglement piled onto the existing narrative of a young woman spiraling out of control, unable or unwilling to adhere to the rules that applied to everyone else, let alone the elevated scrutiny applied to a celebrity. The sheer volume of her legal troubles was staggering. She amassed arrests for reckless driving, driving with a suspended license, and countless probation violations. Her court appearances became a macabre form of entertainment for some, with every detail of her legal battles, from her failed drug tests to her tearful pleas, meticulously documented by the media. Judges became almost as well known as Lohan herself, admonishing her in open court, their frustration palpable as they repeatedly ordered her back to jail or rehab. She completed multiple court-ordered rehabilitation programs, each one promising a fresh start, only for inevitable relapses and further legal entanglements to follow. This relentless cycle of hope and despair became a constant feature of the news, demonstrating how deeply entrenched her struggles were, and how difficult it was for her to break free from the grip of addiction and the pressures of her life. Her life literally became a reality show, played out on the front pages of tabloids and news feeds, with a seemingly endless stream of dramatic twists and turns. The public's fascination with Lohan's spiraling life was intense and complex. For many, she was a cautionary tale, a vivid illustration of how early fame can warp a young life, robbing individuals of the chance to mature and develop privately. Her struggles became a symbol of the immense pressures child stars face, often lacking the stable foundations and coping mechanisms needed to navigate the challenges of adulthood, let alone do so under the constant glare of the public eye. Beyond the simple schadenfreude, her story sparked broader conversations about mental health and addiction within the entertainment industry, highlighting the woefully inadequate support systems available to young celebrities once their star begins to fade. Her repeated attempts at comebacks, often thwarted by new legal issues or erratic behavior, only deepened the narrative of a talented individual trapped in a self-destructive loop, constantly battling her demons in the most public way imaginable. Lindsay Lohan's prolonged struggle stands as one of the most enduring and tragic examples of a celebrity meltdown, a reminder of the devastating consequences when personal battles collide with the unforgiving scrutiny of global fame. From the tragic and prolonged struggles of Lindsay Lohan, we now pivot to an incident that captured headlines not for its duration, but for its explosive, singular act of aggression: Russell Crowe's infamous phone-throwing incident in 2005. This wasn't a slow unraveling or a bizarre performance. It was a sudden, violent outburst that instantly cemented his reputation as a hot-headed, volatile actor. Imagine this: the highly acclaimed, Oscar-winning star, known for his intense on-screen presence in a luxurious New York City hotel, the Mercer. The date was June 6, 2005. Crowe, reportedly attempting to call his wife, Danielle Spencer, who was in Australia, became enraged when the hotel's telephone system malfunctioned. He couldn't get a clear signal, and frustration, compounded by jet lag and perhaps a short temper, boiled over into a shockingly aggressive act. In a fit of pique, he ripped the telephone from the wall and hurled it directly at the hotel concierge, a man named Nestor Estrada. The phone struck Estrada in the face, causing a laceration and requiring medical attention. This wasn't just a minor tantrum. It was a physical assault that left a hotel employee injured and the public aghast. The immediate aftermath was swift and severe. Police were called to the scene, and Russell Crowe was arrested and charged with second-degree assault and fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon, the weapon, in this case, being the telephone itself. The image of a major movie star being led away in handcuffs from a high-end hotel sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. For an actor who had built a career on portraying powerful, often aggressive characters, this incident seemed to blur the lines between his on-screen persona and his real-life behavior, solidifying the perception that his intensity extended well beyond the silver screen. The news spread like wildfire, dominating headlines and becoming a topic of intense discussion on talk shows and news programs globally. The detailed accounts of the incident, including the visual of the injured concierge and the unflattering police reports, painted a stark picture of a celebrity losing control in a very public and damaging way. The public reaction to the phone-throwing incident was overwhelmingly negative. While Crowe had always been known for his intensity and occasional brusqueness, this act of physical violence crossed a line that many found unforgivable. Critics and fans alike expressed their disgust, viewing the incident as a clear abuse of power and privilege. The narrative quickly formed around his perceived arrogance and an inability to control his temper, particularly when faced with minor inconveniences. The incident was widely parodied, becoming a recurring joke in popular culture, further embedding the image of the volatile actor into the public consciousness. For a celebrity whose career relies heavily on public perception, the damage to his image was significant. He was no longer just the intense actor, he was the hot-headed brute who attacked a hotel employee over a phone call. This was a stark reminder that even big stars, those who seem to exist above the law, are not exempt from facing legal consequences for their public outbursts and aggressive actions. In the end, Crowe faced legal repercussions that, while not career-ending, were certainly damaging. He pleaded guilty to the assault charges and entered into a plea deal, which included a conditional discharge and an order to pay the victim an undisclosed sum as part of a civil out-of-court settlement. He also made a public apology, expressing his shame and regret for his actions, acknowledging that his temper had gotten the better of him. However, the incident left an indelible mark, serving as a constant reminder of his struggle with anger management and the immense pressures that fame can exert, even on those who seem to thrive on intensity. It underscored the harsh reality that a celebrity's personal conduct, particularly when it turns violent, can have far-reaching consequences that extend beyond the immediate legal ramifications, perpetually shaping their public narrative and casting a long shadow over their professional achievements. From the physical outburst of Russell Crowe, we shift dramatically to a different kind of public implosion, one rooted in personal scandal and preemptive self-preservation, David Letterman's astonishing extortion confession in 2009. This wasn't a celebrity losing his temper or battling addiction. It was an iconic late-night host, known for his sardonic wit and controlled persona, staring directly into the camera and broadcasting a deeply personal, potentially career-ending secret to millions. The decision to reveal on his own show, The Late Show with David Letterman, that he had engaged in sexual relationships with female staff members, all because he was being extorted, was a move of such breathtaking audacity and uncomfortable honesty that it instantly became one of the most talked about events in television history. The narrative unfolded on a Thursday night in October 2009. Letterman began his monologue as usual, but the tone quickly shifted. With a seriousness rarely seen from the usually playful host, he explained that he had been the target of an extortion attempt. The perpetrator, a producer for CBS News named Robert Halderman, had threatened to expose details of Letterman's private life unless he paid $2 million. What Letterman revealed next stunned the audience into silence. He explained that the information the extorter possessed, that he had had sexual affairs with various women who worked for him on his show, was in fact true. He described receiving a package containing a letter and other materials, including a detailed diary which laid out the alleged affairs. His decision to confess preemptively, rather than try to hide or negotiate, was a calculated gamble. He stated that he felt compelled to take the wind out of the sails of the blackmailer, to deny him the power of leveraging this secret against him. This raw, unscripted admission, delivered with a mix of shame, defiance, and a touch of his characteristic gallows humor, was unprecedented for a figure of his stature. It was not an apology for his actions, but a stark explanation of the circumstances that had forced his hand, blurring the lines between a late-night comedy show and a very public confessional. The public and media reaction was predictably overwhelming and intensely divided. Initially, there was widespread shock and bewilderment. No one expected such a deeply personal and potentially damaging revelation from a late-night host during their regular broadcast. The confession instantly dominated headlines, becoming the lead story on news broadcasts across the country and a trending topic globally. While many were stunned by the audacity of the extortion attempt, the focus quickly shifted to Letterman's admitted infidelity and the ethical implications of a powerful figure engaging in sexual relationships with his subordinates. Critics questioned the power dynamics at play, arguing that regardless of consent, the inherent power imbalance between a boss and employee made such relationships problematic. Some praised Letterman's courage and honesty in facing the issue head-on, seeing it as a brave act of transparency, while others condemned his actions as hypocritical, damaging to his image, and a betrayal of trust. The story sparked a national conversation about workplace ethics, celebrity morality, and the boundaries of privacy, especially for public figures. The incident was a turning point for Letterman, fundamentally altering his public image, at least temporarily. For a comedian who had built a career on maintaining a certain emotional distance, this moment of extreme vulnerability was jarring. It exposed a more complex, flawed man behind the desk, forcing viewers to reconcile the witty, irreverent host with the individual grappling with deeply personal and morally ambiguous choices. The controversy, while painful, also served to humanize him in a strange way. He navigated the immediate aftermath with relative grace, offering further apologies to his wife and staff for the pain he had caused, and eventually the story faded from the daily news cycle. However, the confession left an indelible mark on his legacy, serving as a powerful reminder that even the most controlled public figures are susceptible to scandals that can explode into the public sphere, often with unexpected and far-reaching consequences. It showcased how a veteran entertainer, in a moment of extreme duress, chose to peel back the curtain on his own life, turning a deeply personal crisis into a bizarre, compelling, and unforgettable piece of live television. From the calculated confession of David Letterman we now address a different kind of public implosion, one rooted not in personal scandal but in deep-seated societal issues: Paula Deen's racism controversy. While it didn't involve erratic behavior or public outbursts in the conventional sense, her career and carefully cultivated public image suffered a catastrophic public unraveling in 2013. Deen, the beloved Southern chef known for her butter-laden recipes and folksy charm, found herself at the center of a firestorm after admitting under oath to using racial slurs, specifically the N-word, and having desired a Southern plantation-themed wedding where black men would serve as waiters, evoking a disturbing historical aesthetic. This admission, made during a deposition for a discrimination lawsuit filed by a former employee, sent shockwaves through her lucrative culinary empire and the broader entertainment world. It became a stark reminder that words and actions, even those from the past, can resurface with devastating public consequences, permanently altering a celebrity's brand and livelihood. The specific allegations against Deen were laid bare during the deposition. Lisa Jackson, a former general manager of Deen's restaurant, The Lady and Sons in Savannah, Georgia, accused Deen and her brother, Bubba Hirers, of creating a hostile work environment rife with racial and sexual discrimination. During the questioning, Deen was asked directly if she had ever used the N-word. Her admission, yes, of course, coupled with her explanation that she had used it in the past, primarily when recounting stories from back in the day or quoting others, ignited the controversy. More disturbingly, she openly discussed her desire to have a true Southern wedding for her brother, complete with black men dressed in white jackets, reminiscent of enslaved people serving at plantations. She dismissed any racial implications of this vision, claiming it was simply a theme. This apparent nonchalance and lack of understanding regarding the offensive nature of her past language and her thematic wedding idea struck many as deeply problematic, signaling a profound disconnect from contemporary racial sensitivities and a disturbing nostalgia for a racially oppressive past. Deen's initial responses to the controversy did little to assuage public anger. In fact, they often exacerbated it. After the deposition details became public, she attempted to control the narrative through a series of awkward and often contradictory public apologies. Her first attempt was a video apology where she appeared visibly distressed and tearful, stating she was truly sorry for the pain she had caused. However, this was quickly followed by other video messages that seemed to shift blame or minimize the severity of her actions, sometimes appearing defensive or even defiant, rather than genuinely contrite. She famously canceled a scheduled appearance on the Today Show at the last minute, further fueling public frustration and creating an impression that she was either unwilling or unable to fully face the music. This initial fumbling response, characterized by inconsistency and a perceived lack of genuine remorse, intensified the backlash. It suggested an incomplete understanding of the gravity of her words and the historical pain they evoked, rather than a full acceptance of responsibility. The backlash from sponsors and the media was swift, brutal, and unprecedented in its scope. Within days of the revelations, her meticulously built empire began to crumble with astonishing speed. The Food Network, her primary television home, quickly announced it would not renew her contract, effectively ending her long-running show. This was just the beginning. Major brands that had long associated with Deen, including Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Sears, J.C. Penney, QVC, and Caesars Entertainment, rapidly terminated their lucrative endorsement deals and pulled her products from their shelves. The cascade of cancellations was relentless, demonstrating the severe financial consequences that can arise when a celebrity's perceived values clash so fundamentally with public expectations and corporate responsibility. Even her publishing deal with Random House was canceled, despite her latest cookbook topping bestseller lists at the time. The media, which had largely championed her down-home persona, turned on her with a vengeance, dissecting every aspect of her past and present, leaving no stone unturned in exposing what many now viewed as underlying prejudice. This incident transcended a mere celebrity scandal. It exposed deep-seated issues of prejudice, privilege, and accountability that continue to resonate in American society. Dean's downfall served as a powerful illustration of how unexamined biases, particularly those tied to historical injustices, can suddenly resurface and derail even the most successful public figures. It forced a national conversation about the casual use of racial slurs, the insidious nature of systemic racism, and the uncomfortable realities of lingering historical grievances in the American South. For many, it highlighted how privilege can blind individuals to the impact of their words and actions, demonstrating that intent, while sometimes mitigating, does not erase impact. The incident also underscored the power of public opinion in the digital age, where information spreads rapidly and the consequences for perceived transgressions can be immediate and severe. Paula Deen's fall from grace remains a potent example of how a celebrity's past and their response to its exposure can abruptly cut short a celebrated career, teaching a harsh lesson about the non-negotiable demands of public trust and integrity in a diverse and increasingly scrutinized world. From the calculated confessions and career implosions based on past actions, we now confront a public meltdown that was raw, immediate, and tragically self-inflicted: Michael Richards' racist rant. Best known globally as the eccentric and beloved Cosmo Kramer from the iconic sitcom Seinfeld, Richards had cultivated an image of harmless, physical comedy genius. That carefully constructed persona shattered irrevocably on November 17, 2006, during a stand-up performance at the Laugh Factory Comedy Club in Hollywood. What began as a routine heckling incident from audience members spiraled into a shockingly vile, profanity-laced tirade, where Richards repeatedly unleashed racial slurs against the black individuals who had interrupted his act. This wasn't a private moment accidentally leaked, nor was it a slow burn of erratic behavior. It was a sudden, explosive, and profoundly ugly display of anger and prejudice, captured on video phones by audience members and destined to become a career-ending moment. The shocking nature of the language used by Richards was its most immediate and damaging element. As the heckling intensified, Richards erupted, shouting, "50 years ago we'd have you upside down with a fucking fork up your ass," and repeatedly screaming the N-word, punctuating it with other expletives, telling the hecklers that they were why we don't have civil rights anymore. The words themselves, loaded with historical pain and hate, were delivered with palpable fury and venom, leaving the audience stunned into a horrified silence. The laughter that typically filled a comedy club was replaced by gasps and uneasy murmurs, as patrons struggled to comprehend the bizarre and offensive spectacle unfolding before them. Some audience members attempted to intervene, shouting back at Richards to stop, but he seemed to be in a trance of uncontrolled rage, impervious to their pleas or the gravity of his words. The raw footage, shaky and grainy from early camera phones, captured not just the slurs but the visceral discomfort of the crowd and Richards' own horrifying intensity, making the incident all the more disturbing to watch. The video of the rant almost immediately went viral, propelled by the nascent power of platforms like YouTube and early social media. Within hours, clips were circulating globally, discussed endlessly on news channels, blogs, and online forums. The sheer speed of its dissemination amplified the shock and condemnation. For someone so universally recognized and loved as Kramer, the dissonance between his on-screen character and this hateful real-life outburst was jarring for millions. The incident ignited a widespread, often painful conversation about racism in comedy, in Hollywood, and within society at large. Many debated whether the outburst was a true reflection of Richards' character, a moment of extreme pressure-induced breakdown, or an unmasking of underlying prejudice. Regardless of the intent, the impact was undeniable, forcing a reckoning with how easily casual racism can fester, even among those in the public eye, and the devastating consequences once it is unleashed. The profound impact on Michael Richards' career was immediate and ultimately absolute. Prior to this, he had enjoyed a comfortable position as a beloved pop culture icon, still benefiting from Seinfeld's enduring popularity. The rant, however, rendered him effectively persona non grata in Hollywood. His comedic persona was irreversibly tainted by the specter of racial hatred, making it impossible for audiences to separate the character from the real-life behavior. He made several public apologies in the immediate aftermath, most notably appearing via satellite on The Late Show with David Letterman, with Jerry Seinfeld by his side. Richards expressed deep regret, admitting that his outburst was fueled by anger and a sense of having blown himself up. He later elaborated in interviews, claiming the rant was a reaction to the hecklers targeting his race, and that his use of slurs was a self-sabotaging act of projecting his anger and shame outwards. Despite these apologies and his subsequent efforts to understand and atone for his actions, his career in the mainstream entertainment industry never recovered. He virtually disappeared from public life, save for a few rare, reflective interviews years later. The incident serves as a stark, enduring reminder of how quickly a public figure, even one as iconic as Kramer, can fall from grace due to a single hateful outburst, and how deeply words, once spoken, can scar and define a legacy forever, resonating with a bitter truth about the pervasive nature of prejudice.